15 Days Practice for IELTS Listening. Brought to you by Knowledge Island by Bilal.
Day 6. Summary 1.
You will hear a lecture about sports. Listen carefully and fill in all the blanks with no more than 3 words. First, you have some time to look at the questions.
Not all people like to work, but everyone likes to play. As sports help people live happily, they help to keep people healthy and feeling good. When people are playing games, they move a lot. This is good for their health. Having fun with their friends makes them happy. So all over the world, men and women, boys and girls enjoy sports. Since long ago, adults and children have called their friends together to spend hours, even days, playing games. Sports usually take a variety of forms. Organised competitions, which draw huge crowds to cheer their favourite team to victory, athletic games, played for recreation anywhere sufficient space is found, and hunting and fishing. Most sports are seasonal, so that what is happening in sports depends on the time of the year. As sports change with the season, people often do not play the same games in winter as in summer. If you want to know what others' favourite sports are, first of all, you should find where they live. Generally speaking, people in hot areas are fond of swimming, while people in cold places love skiing or skating. In this case, surfing is believed to be an important sport in Hawaii. The Pacific Ocean sends huge waves up on the beaches, waves that are just right for surfing. Some sports, including wrestling, boxing, horse racing, etc., are called spectator sports, as the number of spectators greatly exceeds the number of players in the game. Other sports are called participant sports, drawing a crowd of onlookers only on special occasions, such as tournaments. Some sports are commercial and professional, with players who are paid for their participation and with audiences who pay admission to watch.
Summary 2. You will hear a radio program in which the speakers discuss the importance of looking after old people in winter. Listen to the dialogue and fill in all the blanks with no more than 3 words. First, please read the questions. Now listen and answer the questions.
Nobody likes cold weather, but for old people it can be particularly uncomfortable and dangerous. They can become cold without even noticing it. To keep warm, they may need help from friends and neighbors like you. To find out how we can help, we've invited a representative from the Social Service Department at the Town Hall to talk about the Winter Warmth Code campaign. Mr. Hastings, can I first ask you why it is so important to keep an eye on elderly people during cold weather such as we've been having lately?
Yes. There are 2 main reasons. First, the old suffer from the cold more than the rest of us. They're not as active or strong as you and me, and it's harder for them to keep warm. This can lead to all sorts of complications. They have less resistance to infection. The quality of their lives is badly affected, and in extreme cases, they may need to be hospitalized.
According to the newspapers, old people are actually dying of the cold. Is this true?
I'm afraid it is. I said before there were two main reasons why we should keep an eye on old people. Well, the other major problem is that so many pensioners cannot afford to heat their homes properly. They may already be living in difficult circumstances. Then, in an exceptionally cold winter such as this one, they may just not have enough money to pay for the extra heating necessary.
It seems terrible that in a society such as ours, this should be happening.
It is. And what the Winter Warmth Code campaign aims to do is to bring this problem to the attention not only of the government, but of everybody else in society. We all have a duty towards our old people to make sure that they do not suffer in this cold weather.
So now to the practical side of things. What can we do to help?
Well, we all know someone old, a relative maybe, a neighbor, someone living round the corner. We should adopt that person and make sure that we spare a few minutes every day to check that everything is okay. Make sure, even if the old person is not actually ill, that he or she is not suffering. Check when you go inside that the house or flat doesn't feel cold to you. It's a good idea to try to feel some part of their body, like their face or hands. Old people can become cold without even noticing it, you know.
Okay, and if a person is too poor to afford to heat the house or flat?
The best thing then is for the old person to live in one room only and to make sure that that one room is warm. Check that the bed is on an inside wall. Move it yourself if necessary. Check the room for drafts. A lot of cold air gets into the room through old windows or badly fitting doors.
Is food important?
Yes. Make sure that the old person is eating well. You could help by cooking for them or doing the shopping. Remember, a good hot meal a day makes a big difference. Also, make sure that they are well dressed. Old people need to wear more layers of clothes than we do, particularly at night.
One last question, Mr. Hastings. Is there nothing the state can do to help?
Oh, yes, indeed. Contact your town hall to find out about local organizations already involved in this kind of work. If there is a local Meals on Wheels service, for instance, you could get your adopted old person on the list. Then, of course, there are also many state benefits which an old person could be entitled to, and which he or she doesn't know about, and which therefore he or she is not claiming. An extra problem here is that it can often be complicated, and old people don't like going to Social Security offices to fill in forms and all that. You can help by finding out for them what possibilities exist for claiming a little extra money from the government, then applying for it for them. That little extra could make all the difference.
Yes, indeed. Well, Mr. Hastings, thank you for coming in and talking to us today.
Thank you. Summary 3.
You will hear a short news item. Fill in the gaps in the summary below with the correct word or phrase according to what you hear. First, you have some time to look at the questions. Now, listen to the news item and answer the questions. The police are continuing their investigations and, based on new leads, expect to make an early arrest. The drought in northern THR continues to worsen, with tens of thousands of hectares of once lush pastoral land having now been without a single drop of rain for over 11 months. Farmers from the stricken region are beginning to despair, with meteorologists predicting that the drought is unlikely to break before Christmas. Many farmers have begun shooting their worst affected cattle, and in some cases entire flocks of sheep have been destroyed. These measures, tough and cruel though they may seem, are essential to prevent a possible outbreak of widespread disease. It is not only farm animals that are in trouble. Environmentalists are also concerned that the lack of water in rivers, lakes and streams will mean more native animals in the bush will die unless rain comes soon. They believe the drought could have a lasting effect on the populations of such native animals as kangaroos, wallabies and koalas. Our reporter, Colin Harrison, is in Vance, talking with long-range weather forecaster Joseph Singer. Over to you, Colin.
Joseph, can you give any indication as to when we might receive some rain in the affected regions of THR?
Well, it's hard to say, of course, but I'm confident that the drought will break within approximately 2 months. If you look back at the data kept of previous periods of drought, over the last 100 years or so, you see a cyclic pattern of severity developing, and we're now at the short end of the last cycle. I'm fairly certain that we'll see some rain either just before or just after Christmas.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Joseph. Colin Harrison from the very hot and dry town of Vance in northern THR.
Meanwhile, at the CSIRO laboratories in Ottawa, encouraging developments have recently been made in the process of cloud seeding, a process by which clouds can be forced to make rain, and research scientists are to begin conducting trials of a new technique involving lasers later this month. If successful, the state government will be asked to contribute up to $5 million to establish permanent cloud seeding stations in areas most likely to be affected by drought in the future. For many farmers, though, any breakthrough will have come too late. Every week, more farming families are being forced to sell their homes, unable to survive financially, with little or no income to support them. A special assistance fund has been set up to help drought-stricken families. If you would like to send some money, you can do so by calling this number now, 001 43 8172. I'll repeat that number, 001 43 8172.
Summary 4.
Listen to the conversation between Andrew and Samantha. Complete the summary by writing one suitable word in the numbered spaces. First, you have some time to look at the questions. Now listen to the talk and answer the questions.
Does your work bring you into contact with many overseas students, Samantha?
Occasionally. As you know, a solicitor's work is to advise people about their rights when they have any problems understanding how the law operates. They may need help because of injury to themselves or their property, if they've been attacked or robbed, for example. But these are not by any means the main problems I deal with.
Really? We know more about crime, I suppose, because we read about it in the newspaper or see it on TV. What other things do people come to you for help with?
There are lots of things which don't get nearly so much attention. Sometimes it's to do with relationships in the community, as when bills aren't paid or contracted work isn't completed or neighbours disagree. At other times, it's to do with people not understanding the law and their responsibilities, and this is probably where overseas students have the most difficulty. One interesting example is customs laws, something which every new arrival has to come up against.
What is it that overseas students find most difficult to understand about Australian customs regulations?
I think it's a shock to many people arriving here for the first time to find out how many things are prohibited. Everyday food items, for example. I mean, when I've been travelling overseas, I've been quite amazed at the lack of concern in some countries about food being brought in from other parts of the world without any check.
You mean people arriving into other countries don't have to declare any foodstuffs at all?
In some countries, there are lots of warnings about drugs and firearms, and there are usually limits on alcohol and tobacco, and perhaps perfume. But food's not mentioned.
Yes, I suppose I never thought about it till I came here. You can take anything you like into England as far as food is concerned.
You see, here, you can't even drive from one state to another with a few apples and oranges for the journey. There are signs to remind you not to bring any fruit into some states, though they don't usually search your bags unless there's a fruit fly epidemic or something.
With those kinds of regulations between states, it's no wonder that they're so strict about what you can bring in from overseas. Of course, farmers would be wiped out if some pests were introduced which destroyed their whole crop. It's easy to understand why you should take steps to prevent that.
And with food being such an important part of many cultures, it can be difficult for some people to realise they're not allowed to bring in delicacies from home for friends and relatives here. I'm defending someone at the moment who has exactly that problem.
Oh, what happened?
It's an interesting case. Have you got time for a cup of coffee? I'll tell you about it if you like.
That'd be great.
Don't forget to comment, like, and share our video.